The envelope landed on her pregnant belly like a death sentence. 6 months along, painting butterflies in the nursery, and her husband just served her divorce papers. For a model, a 24-year-old Instagram model who was understood his lifestyle. But here's what Derek Ashford didn't know. The woman he just called mentally unstable in a press release, the wife he publicly humiliated, the one he thought would take $2 million and disappear quietly. She wasn't nobody. She was Cassandra Whitmore, daughter of a pharmaceutical billionaire, heiress to a $12 billion empire. She'd hidden her identity for 5 years to find real love, and he just made the worst mistake of his life. What happened next? Let's just say Derek thought he was divorcing a desperate housewife. He ended up losing his company, his freedom, and his future to the woman he underestimated. This is the story of how she destroyed him, without ever raising her voice. Stay with me. You won't believe what she did. The envelope landed on her swollen belly with a soft thud that echoed like a gunshot in the silence of their penthouse. Cassie sat cross-legged on the drop cloth, paintbrush in hand, surrounded by the pale pink butterflies she'd been painting on the nursery wall. 6 months pregnant, 26 weeks, 182 days of growing their daughter. Their planned, wanted, celebrated daughter. The envelope was manila, legal-sized, official. She looked up at Derek standing in the doorway. His face was blank, carefully blank. The kind of blank that takes practice. "We need to talk," he said. Those 4 words. Everyone knows what those 4 words mean. They mean the end of something. They mean nothing good comes next. Cassie set down the paintbrush, soft pink, butterfly pink, baby girl pink. "Okay," she said. Her voice sounded small, distant, like it was coming from somewhere else. Derek didn't sit down, didn't come closer. Just stood there in his $1,500 suit with his $200 haircut, looking at her like she was a problem he needed to solve. "I can't do this anymore," he said, flat, rehearsed, like he'd practiced in the mirror. "I never wanted to be a father. I thought you were different, ambitious, focused. Then you got pregnant and became ordinary." Ordinary, the word hung in the air between them. Cassie's hands moved to her belly, protective, instinctive. The baby kicked. Once, twice, like she knew something was wrong. "Is there someone else?" Cassie asked. She already knew the answer, had known for months, but asking made it real. Asking meant she had to face it. Derek didn't even have the decency to lie. "Amber understands my lifestyle. She doesn't want to trap me with responsibilities." Trap him. With their child, their wanted child, their planned child. "The papers are in the envelope," Derek said. "My lawyer will contact yours. Or you can get a lawyer, whatever. I'm staying at the Four Seasons tonight. I'll have someone come for my things tomorrow." He turned to leave. "Derek." Her voice cracked. She hated that it cracked. Hated how weak she sounded. He paused, didn't turn around. "How long?" she asked. "How long have you been planning this?" "Does it matter?" "Yes." He looked back at her then, really looked at her. And for just a second, she saw something in his eyes. Guilt, maybe, or pity. She wasn't sure which was worse. "Goodbye, Cassie." The door clicked shut, soft, final. The sound of an ending. Cassie sat there on the floor of the nursery. 6 months pregnant, divorce papers on her belly, surrounded by half-finished butterflies that would never be finished. The silence pressed down on her, heavy, suffocating. She picked up the envelope with shaking hands, opened it, read the first page. Petitioner, respondent, irreconcilable differences, equitable distribution of marital assets. The language was bloodless, clinical, like their marriage could be reduced to legal terms and financial calculations. But between the lines, she read the truth. This wasn't sudden. This wasn't impulsive. This was planned, calculated, premeditated. You don't serve divorce papers to your 6 months pregnant wife on a Tuesday evening unless you've been planning it for weeks, months maybe. How long had she been living with a ghost? How long had he been gone while still physically present? Her phone sat on the changing table. She should call someone. Grace, her mother, Ethan, anyone. But calling someone made it real. And she wasn't ready for real. Not yet. The baby kicked again, harder this time. Insistent, Cassie put her hand on her belly. I know, she whispered. I know. We're going to be okay. Somehow, we're going to be okay. She didn't believe it, but she needed to say it, needed to hear the words even if they were lies. The clock on the wall ticked. 7:32, 7:33, 7:34. Time kept moving. Impossibly. Cruelly. Time didn't care that her world had just ended. She looked at the divorce papers again. Read them more carefully this time. Page 3. Financial disclosure. Derek had listed the value of his company, $400 million, his salary, his stock options, his real estate holdings. Under her assets, he'd written, none, Megan. None, like she'd brought nothing to this marriage, like she was nothing. The fury started then, small, quiet, a spark in the darkness. She'd walked away from billions to marry him, given up her family name, her inheritance, her future, all to prove that she could be loved for herself, that she was more than just Margaret Whitmore's daughter. And he'd written, none. Cassie stood up, her back ached, her feet hurt, her heart felt like it was breaking. But she stood up. She walked to the kitchen, pulled out her phone, found the contact she hadn't used in 5 years. Margaret Whitmore. Mother. Her thumb hovered over the call button. 5 years. 5 years of radio silence because Cassie had been so determined to prove she didn't need her family. So convinced that love was enough, that being chosen was enough. She hit call. 3 rings. 4. Then, Cassandra. Her mother's voice. Cool, controlled, unsurprised. I was wondering when you'd call. Mother, Cassie's voice broke. I need help. I know, darling. I saw the statement from Derek's publicist. Come home. We have a great deal to discuss. How did you? I'm your mother. I know everything. Now come home. Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Don't be late. The line went dead. Cassie stood in her kitchen, divorce papers on the counter, phone in her hand, baby kicking in her belly. And for the first time in hours, she felt something other than despair. She felt possibility. Mirror technique moment. She did what she always did when reality became unbearable. She cleaned. At 8 p.m., 6 months pregnant, she got on her hands and knees and scrubbed the baseboards of the nursery. Scrubbed until her back screamed. Scrubbed until her hands were raw. Because if she stopped moving, she'd have to feel it. And she wasn't ready to feel it yet. The baseboards gleamed. The floor was spotless. The walls were perfect. Everything was perfect except her life. She sat back on her heels. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mrs. Ashford, this is Melissa Chen from Ms. Whitmore's office. Your mother requests your presence at the Greenwich Estate tomorrow at 10 a.m. A car will collect you at 9:15. Please confirm. Cassie stared at the message. Her mother hadn't waited for confirmation, had already sent a car, already made plans. Some things never changed. She typed back, confirmed, then she added, thank you. The response came immediately. Ms. Whitmore says to bring the divorce papers, all of them, and anything else Derek has given you recently. Documentation matters. Documentation matters. Even in crisis, her mother was thinking strategy. Cassie gathered the papers, put them in a folder, added the prenup they'd signed 5 years ago, the one Derek's lawyer had insisted on, the one that gave her almost nothing in the event of divorce. She'd signed it without reading. Too in love to care, too certain their marriage would last forever. Tomorrow her mother would read every word, would find the loopholes, the vulnerabilities, the mistakes, and Derek Ashford would learn what it meant to underestimate a Whitmore woman. Cassie didn't sleep. She lay in the guest room. The bed felt too big, too empty, too honest about what her marriage had become. Derek didn't come home. The master bedroom down the hall stayed dark, silent, empty. She pulled up her phone. 3 a.m., the hour when everything feels impossible. She typed into the search bar, can pregnancy hormones cause paranoia? 13 million results. Next search, signs your husband is cheating. 8 million results. Next, divorce while pregnant legal rights. 4 million results. Next, am I crazy? 3 billion results. The internet thought millions of women were asking the same questions at 3 in the morning. Women lying awake wondering if they were imagining things, if they were overreacting, if they were losing their minds. Cassie clicked through articles, each one a mirror reflecting her own situation back at her. Trust your instincts. Easy to say when your instincts have been systematically undermined for months. Look for changes in behavior. Like what? Like him suddenly caring about his appearance, working late every Thursday, guarding his phone like it contained state secrets? She'd seen all the signs. She'd just been too afraid to believe them. There's a difference between not knowing and not wanting to know. She'd lived in that space for months. The comfortable lie felt safer than the uncomfortable truth. Her mind spiraled through memories, reframing everything through this new lens of betrayal. 3 months ago, dinner at home. His phone lit up on the table. The message preview showed just enough. Can't wait for tonight, followed by a devil emoji. She'd looked up from her pasta. Who's that? Derek's response was smooth, too smooth. Practice smooth. Preston, inside joke about the merger. She'd believed him because believing was easier than knowing, because confronting him meant facing the truth. And she wasn't ready. 2 months ago, finding a receipt in his suit pocket while taking clothes to the dry cleaner. Marcello's, their anniversary restaurant, dinner for two, wine, dessert, $247, on a night he'd told her he was in Boston for a conference. She'd stared at that receipt for 10 minutes, holding it, reading it, rereading it. Then she'd convinced herself it was a business dinner, that the romantic setting was coincidental, that she was being paranoid, that pregnancy hormones were making her irrational. She'd thrown the receipt away, hidden the evidence from herself 1 month ago, the way he stopped touching her belly when the baby kicked. He used to put his hand there instinctively, talk to the baby, make plans, call her his little butterfly. Then suddenly nothing. Like the pregnancy made Cassie untouchable, undesirable, other. She'd blamed it on work stress, on the company's financial pressures, on anything except the truth staring her in the face. The truth, her husband had been planning his exit for months, and she'd been too afraid to see it. Validation whisper. I wasn't being paranoid. I was being observant. There's a difference. Dawn broke. Gray light filtered through the curtains of the guest room. A key turned in the front door. Derek, finally coming home. Cassie stayed perfectly still, listened to him move through the apartment, his footsteps in the foyer, the rustle of his coat, the clink of his keys on the marble counter. He didn't check on her, didn't come to the guest room, went straight to the master bedroom and closed the door. The message was clear. They were done, just going through the motions now. At 7 a.m., her doorbell rang. Cassie stumbled out of bed, disoriented, exhausted, opened the door. Grace stood there with 2 coffees and a determined expression. Get dressed, Grace said, pushing past her into the apartment. We're going for a walk, and we're going to talk about what you're going to do. How did you know? Lottie called me. Your assistant has been fielding calls from Derek's PR team all morning. Apparently, they're planning to release a statement about the divorce. Cassie took the coffee. Decaf. Grace never forgot. I'm going to my mother's, Cassie said. Grace stopped, stared. Your mother, Cassie, you haven't spoken to your family in 5 years. I know, but Derek just made a very stupid mistake. What mistake? He forgot to ask who I am. They walked to Central Park. The morning was cold, clear. The kind of day that felt like a fresh start even when your life was ending. Grace didn't sugarcoat. It was one of the things Cassie loved most about her. I'm going to say what you're not ready to hear, Grace said. This isn't sudden. Men don't wake up and decide to divorce their pregnant wives. This has been planned. The words landed like physical blows. How long? Cassie whispered. Does it matter? Grace pulled up her phone. I said to her boss, look, I wouldn't show you this if I wasn't 100% sure you need to see it. Instagram, Amber Sterling's account. Private. But Grace had screenshots from a mutual friend's cousin's story. 6 degrees of separation in the age of social media. Photo 1, Derek and Amber at the Met Gala. Last May, she was wearing gold, he was wearing a tuxedo. They were standing close. Too close. Photo 2, Derek and Amber at the opening of that new Italian restaurant in Tribeca. The one Cassie had wanted to try, but Derek said was overrated. Apparently not too overrated for his mistress. Photo 3. Derek and Amber at Vanessa's birthday party. Last month. The party Cassie had begged off because her ankles were swollen and she was exhausted. Cassie scrolled through the photos. Her hands shook. When was the Met Gala, she asked, though she already knew. May 15th. 8 months ago. The affair had been going on for 8 months. She got pregnant 7 months ago. The timeline was damning, inescapable, crystal clear. He was already cheating when she got pregnant. The baby didn't ruin their marriage. Their marriage was already ruined. She just didn't know it yet. Did everyone know? Cassie asked. Her voice was small, broken. Was I the only one who didn't see it? No one knew for sure. People suspected, whispered, but no one wanted to be the one to tell you. Grace squeezed her hand. I'm sorry, I should have said something sooner. Would I have believed you? Grace considered this. Probably not. They sat on a bench near Bethesda Fountain, watched joggers run past, watched tourists take photos, watched life continue even though Cassie's had stopped. Mirror technique moment. I pretended to be asleep when he came home late, Cassie said quietly. Controlled my breathing, stayed perfectly still, because confronting him meant facing the truth. And I wasn't ready, so I became an expert at fake sleeping. What kind of person does that make me? Human, Grace said. It makes you human. Grace's phone rang. She answered. Her face went pale. Cassie, she said slowly, Derek's publicist just sent a statement to page 6. He's announcing the divorce. Okay, Cassie said, that's expected. No, you don't understand. He's not just announcing it. He's controlling the narrative. And Cassie, he's blaming you. Grace handed over her phone. Bibasi amon. The statement was already live, posted 23 minutes ago, already 417 comments. The headline, Tech CEO Derek Ashford files for divorce, cites wife's mental health struggles. Cassie read, each word was a knife. Tech CEO Derek Ashford filed for divorce from his wife of 5 years, citing concerns for both her welfare and that of their expected child. Sources close to the couple report that Mrs. Ashford has been struggling with severe prenatal mental health challenges throughout her pregnancy, including paranoid delusions and unfounded accusations against her devoted husband. Despite Mr. Ashford's repeated attempts to encourage professional treatment, Mrs. Ashford has refused all intervention. He has made this difficult decision with a heavy heart, hoping that the separation will provide the space necessary for her to seek the help she desperately needs. Mr. Ashford asked for privacy during this difficult time as he focuses on ensuring the safe arrival of his child and supporting his wife from a distance. He remains committed to co-parenting and hopes that Mrs. Ashford will prioritize their baby's welfare by accepting psychiatric care. Character assassination disguised as concern, gaslighting formatted as a press release. Every word was calculated. Paranoid delusions suggested she was imagining the affair. Unfounded accusations implied she was irrational. Devoted husband painted him as the victim. Psychiatric care made her sound dangerous. He wasn't just leaving her, he was destroying her credibility preemptively, making sure that when she told her side of the story, no one would believe her. It was brilliant and vicious, and exactly what a guilty man would do. Cassie's phone exploded. Notifications flooded the screen. Calls, texts, DMs from people she barely knew. Her private Instagram, the one with only 73 followers, suddenly had 96 new follower requests. Her DMs filled with messages from strangers. Get help. Those poor babies don't deserve a crazy mother. Derek deserves better. Gold digger trying to baby trap him. I knew she was unstable. You can always tell. The court of public opinion had rendered its verdict. She was guilty, crazy, unstable. A liar. Her phone rang. Vanessa Ashford, Derek's mother. Cassie considered not answering. Decided she needed to know how bad this was going to get. Vanessa, she answered. Her voice was steady, calmer than she felt. Cassandra. The voice was cold, clipped, each syllable precisely enunciated. I just saw the news. I want you to know that I always had reservations about Derek's decision to marry you. You seemed determined to secure him. Ambitious in ways that made me uncomfortable. The audacity, the sheer breathtaking audacity of this woman. I hope you'll do the right thing, Vanessa continued. Accept the settlement Derek is offering. Don't drag this through the courts. Think of the baby. Think of the Ashford family name. Surely you can understand that this spectacle is beneath us. Beneath us. Like Cassie was a problem to be managed, a scandal to be contained, an embarrassment to be swept under expensive carpets. Vanessa, Cassie said. Her voice was ice. I will see you in court. She hung up. Grace was pacing, furious. We need to get ahead of this. You need to make a statement. You need to show receipts. You need to— No! Grace stopped pacing. What do you mean, no? I mean no public statement. No defending myself to strangers on the internet. No playing his game on his terms. Cassie's voice was cold, clear, final. I need to call my mother. Your mother? Cassie, you haven't spoken to your family in 5 years. You walked away from them. What makes you think they'll help you now? Because I'm Margaret Whitmore's daughter, and Derek just made a very stupid mistake. What mistake? He forgot to ask who I am, where I come from, what resources I actually have access to. Cassie stood up. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. He thinks I'm helpless, isolated, vulnerable. He's about to learn otherwise. She pulled up her phone, found the contact labeled Mother, the one she hadn't called in 1,826 days. Hit dial, 3 rings, 4. Then Cassandra, her mother's voice, cool, controlled, completely unsurprised. I was wondering when you'd call. Mother, Cassie's voice cracked despite her best efforts. I need your help, and I'm ready to come home. The statement didn't just announce their divorce. It painted Cassie as a danger to herself and her unborn child. Cassie sat in the back of her mother's car. Black Mercedes, leather seats, soundproof. The kind of car that costs more than most people's houses. The driver said nothing, just drove. North through Manhattan, across the bridge, into Connecticut, toward Greenwich, toward home. She read the page 6 article again on her phone. Then the comments. Then the comments on the comments. 532 comments now, growing by the minute. She looks unstable in her Instagram photos. I can always spot the crazy ones. Derek dodged a bullet. Hope he gets full custody. Gold digger baby trapped him, and now she's mad it didn't work. The narrative had solidified in less than 6 hours. She was the villain. Derek was the victim. Case closed. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Mrs. Ashford? A woman's voice. Professional. Careful. This is Nina Berkshire from the New York Times. I'm working on an investigative piece about tech company financing practices. Specifically, I'm looking into your husband's company. I've uncovered some financial irregularities that I think you should know about. Cassie's heart rate spiked. What kind of irregularities? The kind involving missing investor funds, offshore accounts, wire transfers that don't add up. I'd like to meet with you, today if possible. I think you are going to want to see what I've found. Where? There's a diner in Queens, Joe's, corner of 42nd and Vernon, 2 p.m. Come alone. And Mrs. Ashford? Don't tell anyone where you're going. Not yet. The line went dead. Cassie stared at her phone. Financial irregularities, missing funds, offshore accounts. Sorry, Charles. Derek wasn't just a cheater, he was a criminal. The car pulled up to the Greenwich estate. The gates opened automatically. She was still in the system. Her mother had never removed her access. Even when Cassie insisted she didn't need her family anymore. Even when Cassie married Derek against everyone's advice. Even when Cassie disappeared for 5 years. Her mother had kept her in the system. Just in case. Margaret Whitmore stood on the steps of the main house, 77 years old. Silver hair pulled back in a flawless chignon. Cashmere sweater, pearls, the kind of woman who runs board meetings and intimidates senators. Hello, darling, her mother said. It's time to come home. They sat in the conservatory, Floor-to-ceiling windows, view of the gardens, morning light streaming through glass. Margaret poured tea from a porcelain pot that was probably worth more than Cassie's car. I knew Derek was wrong for you the moment I met him, Margaret said. Her voice was calm, matter of fact, like they were discussing the weather. Too smooth, too eager. Men who marry above themselves have two reactions, gratitude or resentment. Derek was always going to choose resentment. You never said anything. You wouldn't have listened. You were 27 and determined to prove you could make it without the family money. Admirable, stubborn, very much my daughter. Margaret set down her teacup with precise gentleness. But now he's proven exactly why you shouldn't trust pretty men with mediocre ambitions and expensive tastes. So, what are you going to do about it? I'm going to divorce him. Obviously, but that's not what I asked. I asked what you're going to do about it. Before Cassie could answer, the door opened. Ethan walked in, her older brother, 3 years older, 3 years wiser, the son who stayed, who learned the business, who never ran from the family legacy. He was in a three-piece suit, navy, perfectly tailored, looking every inch the pharmaceutical executive he was. Cassie. He crossed the room, hugged her carefully, mindful of her pregnant belly. I'm sorry about Derek, but I'm not surprised. Everyone keeps saying that, because everyone saw what you refused to see, that he was using you, that he resented your family, that he was always going to leave when you stopped being useful to him. The words stung because they were true. Before we discuss strategy, Margaret said, you have a meeting. 2 p.m., Queens, a diner called Joe's. Cassie stared at her mother. How did you know about that? Nina Berkshire called me first. 3 months ago. She's been investigating Derek's company. I've been funding her research, quietly, through a third party. Margaret smiled. It was not a kind smile. Did you really think I wouldn't keep tabs on the man who married my daughter? Please, give me some credit. You've known about Derek's fraud for 3 months? I've suspected for longer, known for 3 months, waited for the right moment to act. That moment is now. Margaret stood, walked to her desk, pulled out a file. Nina has documented everything. $60 million in missing investor funds, shell companies in the Cayman Islands, wire transfers to Luxembourg, all of it traceable back to Derek. When this comes out, he'll face federal charges, 20 years minimum. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me? You were so convinced he loved you, so determined to prove your marriage was real. You would have thought I was trying to sabotage your happiness. Margaret handed her the file. Sometimes people need to discover the truth themselves. I just made sure the truth would be properly documented when you were ready to see it. Cassie opened the file. Page after page of bank records, wire transfers, shell company registrations, financial statements that showed a massive fraud. He's been running a Ponzi-adjacent scheme, Ethan said, taking new investment money to pay returns to old investors. The company's valuation is built on lies. When it collapses, hundreds of people will lose everything. How long does he have? 6 months, maybe 8. He needs either a massive new investment round or an acquisition to keep the house of cards standing. And if he doesn't get it, prison, bankruptcy, complete destruction. Cassie looked at her mother, at her brother, at the empire she'd walked away from 5 years ago. What do you want from me? She asked. We want you to come back, Margaret said simply. Back to the family, back to the business, back to who you really are. Derek Ashford married a woman he thought was nobody. He's about to learn he divorced a Whitmore, and we protect our own. Mirror technique moment. Cassie realized she was sitting exactly like her mother. Back straight, hands folded, chin up. She'd spent 5 years trying not to become Margaret Whitmore. Turns out in crisis, muscle memory returns, the posture of power, the stance of queens. I'm meeting Nina at 2 p.m., Cassie said. I want to see the evidence for myself. Of course. The car will take you. Afterwards, come back here. We have a great deal to discuss. Cassie stood to leave, paused at the door. Mother, why did you keep me in the system? Why did you keep the gates programmed to open for me? Margaret looked up from her tea. Her eyes were sharp, knowing. Because you're my daughter, and mothers never really let their children go, even when their children think they've left. The diner in Queens was exactly what Cassie expected. Vinyl booths, laminate tables, coffee that was probably terrible but served in endless refills. Nina Berkshire was already there. Early 40s, sharp eyes, worn leather bag, the look of someone who'd spent years following paper trails and cultivating sources. Mrs. Ashford, thank you for coming. Nina gestured to the booth. Coffee, it's terrible, but it's hot. Decaf if they have it. Nina signaled the waitress, ordered 2 decafs, waited until the woman left before sliding a folder across the table. Your husband's company received $200 million in Series C funding 18 months ago. According to SEC filings, that money went into product development and infrastructure improvements. According to my sources, that's not where the money went. Cassie opened the folder. Financial statements, bank records, wire transfer receipts, shell company documentation. At least $60 million is unaccounted for, Nina continued, moved through a network of offshore companies, routed through the Cayman Islands, then Luxembourg, then back to a series of LLCs registered in Delaware. All of them traced back to Derek. He's been stealing from his own company? It's more sophisticated than that. He's been using new investment money to pay returns to old investors. Classic Ponzi-adjacent scheme. The company's valuation is built on projected growth that doesn't exist. The technology works, but not as well as he claims. The user numbers are inflated. The revenue projections are fantasy. When the next audit happens, the whole thing collapses. Cassie studied the documents, page after page of evidence. Damning, inescapable. Why are you showing me this? She asked. Nina set down her terrible coffee. Because you're about to get divorced. And if I'm right about what Derek is doing, you're entitled to half of everything, including what he's hidden. Also, she hesitated. My sister went through something similar. Her husband hid assets before filing for divorce. By the time she found out, it was too late. The money was gone. She ended up with nothing while he walked away rich. I don't want that to happen to you. Your sister told you to help me? My sister killed herself 3 years ago. The financial devastation was part of it. So yes, I'm helping you for her. And for every woman who's been underestimated by a man who thinks he's smarter than everyone else. Cassie looked at Nina, really looked at her, saw the grief there. The determination, the quiet fury of a woman who couldn't save her sister, but could maybe save someone else. Can I keep these? Cassie asked. Those are copies. I have the originals in a safe deposit box. 3 different banks. I'm not stupid. Nina pulled out a business card. When you're ready to go public with this, call me. I'll publish everything. Make sure the world knows exactly who Derek Ashford really is. What if I'm not ready? What if I want to wait? Then wait. I've been working on this story for 4 months. I can wait a few more weeks. But Mrs. Ashford, don't wait too long. The longer Derek has, the more money he can hide, the more people he can hurt, and the harder it will be to get justice. Cassie photographed every page with her phone, sent the photos to 3 email addresses, her encrypted account, Julian Reeves's office, Ethan's private email. Thank you, she said, for caring, for doing this work, for not dismissing me as the crazy wife Derek's trying to paint me as. Women need to protect each other, Nina said simply. God knows no one else is going to do it. Back in the term, Cassie's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Jennifer Morris. I was one of Derek's first investors. I put $2 million into his company 5 years ago. I just read the Page 6 article. I want you to know I don't believe it. And I'm not the only one. There are 8 of us who have been comparing notes, who've noticed irregularities in the financial reports. If you need allies, you have them. Call me when you're ready. Cassie stared at the message. Allies, people who believed her, people who saw through Derek's lies. She wasn't as alone as he wanted her to believe. Validation, whisper. All those times he called me naive about business. All those times he mansplained basic financial concepts to me while I nodded and played dumb. He was projecting. He was the fraud all along. Julian Reeves's office looked exactly like Cassie remembered. Mahogany walls, Floor-to-ceiling law books, Persian rugs, the kind of office that whispered old money and older power. He'd been the Whitmore family attorney for 32 years, handled Margaret's second divorce, Ethan's startup incorporation, the family trust restructuring, Cassie's college graduation gift of $2 million that she'd never touched. Cassie, Julian stood, arms open. He was 52 but looked older. Distinguished silver hair, kind eyes behind expensive glasses. Your mother told me what happened. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Help me understand what I'm looking at. They spread Nina's documents across the conference table. Financial statements, bank records, wire transfers, shell company registrations, page after page of Derek's crimes. Julian's expression grew darker with each revelation. This is worse than embezzlement, he said finally. Derek is running a scheme that's going to implode spectacularly. He's taking investor money, moving it through shell companies, using new investments to pay returns to old investors. The company's entire valuation is built on lies. When this collapses, and it will collapse, people will lose everything. How long does he have? Before the collapse, 6 months, maybe 8. He needs either a massive new investment round or an acquisition to keep the house of cards standing. Without that, the SEC catches up. The investors demand audits, and everything falls apart. And when it does, criminal charges, federal prison, 20 years minimum, complete financial ruin, social destruction. His name becomes synonymous with fraud. Julian looked at her carefully. But you need to understand something. You're his wife. When this comes out, investigators will look at you too. Ask what you knew, when you knew it. Whether you profited from his crimes. We need to establish clear boundaries. Show that you were a victim of his fraud, not a participant. What are my options? Julian leaned back in his chair, steepled his fingers, considered carefully. You could report this to the SEC immediately. Blow the whistle. Distance yourself before the collapse. Protect your reputation. You'd be seen as a hero, the wife who stopped her husband's fraud. Or you could wait. Let him dig deeper. The divorce isn't final for minimum 6 months in New York. Long enough for him to keep manipulating numbers, hiding money, lying to investors. Then when you're ready, you reveal everything. With your testimony and these documents, you'd be protected as a whistleblower. He wouldn't be. You're suggesting I wait? I'm suggesting you think strategically. Right now, Derek controls the narrative. He's painted you as unstable. If you come forward immediately, people will say you're vindictive, a scorned wife making false accusations. But if you wait, gather more evidence, let him commit to his lies in writing, under oath to investigators, then your testimony becomes undeniable. Then you're not a scorned wife. You're a credible witness with documentation. Cassie looked at the evidence spread across the table, thought about Derek's smug face when he served her divorce papers, his casual cruelty, his absolute certainty that she was powerless. How much more evidence do you need, she asked. I'd like to see his personal accounts, any communication about the shell companies, documentation of the wire transfers he personally authorized, email correspondence with offshore banks. Julian paused. You still have access to his computer? He hasn't changed the passwords yet. Then we have a window, a small one, but enough. Cassie's phone buzzed, a text from Ethan. Come back to Greenwich. Mother wants to make a proposal, something you need to hear. She looked at Julian. What kind of proposal? I think Margaret wants to buy Derek's company, save it from collapse, and in doing so destroy him completely. Julian smiled. It was not a kind smile. Your mother doesn't just win, she annihilates. You should probably hear what she has to say. The drive back to Greenwich took 45 minutes. Cassie spent the time thinking about justice, about revenge, about the difference between the two. Derek had humiliated her publicly, called her mentally unstable, tried to paint her as an unfit mother, was stealing from investors, planning to leave her with nothing. What did justice look like in a situation like this? Prison seemed too easy, too clean, too anonymous. No, justice needed to be public, permanent, personal. Justice needed to be Derek watching everything he'd built crumble, watching the world see him for what he really was, watching the people he'd manipulated turn against him. Justice needed to hurt. Back at the estate, Margaret and Ethan were waiting in the library. The room smelled like old books and older money. 3 generations of Whitmores had made decisions in this room. Decisions that shaped industries, moved markets, changed lives. Sit, Margaret said. Not unkindly, just a direct, efficient, the way she'd always been. Cassie sat. Julian tells me you understand the scope of Derek's fraud, Margaret began. Good, that makes this conversation easier. Whitmore Pharmaceuticals would like to make an acquisition offer for Ashford Tech. What kind of offer? Ethan pulled up a presentation on his tablet. We acquire the company. We save it from collapse. We save the cause. We save the investors who trusted Derek. We clean up the fraud. We install new leadership. We turn it into a profitable division of Whitmore Pharmaceuticals. And in exchange, Derek steps down. No severance. No golden parachute. No board seat. Just out. Why would he agree to that? Because the alternative is prison, Margaret said simply. We present him with a choice. Accept our acquisition and walk away with his freedom. Or decline and face federal charges for securities fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering. We have documentation. We have witnesses. We have his own emails describing the shell companies as tax minimization strategies, which is code for fraud. He's looking at 20 years in federal prison. So he can walk away broke, but free. Or he can refuse and go to prison. His choice. What do you need from me? We need you to stay married to him for 90 more days, Ethan said. During acquisition negotiations, spousal testimony, privilege protects certain communications. We need that legal protection while we untangle his shell companies and recover the missing investor funds. After 90 days, you file for divorce. By then, the acquisition will be complete, and you'll have maximum leverage. 90 days of living with a man who destroyed me? 90 days of destroying the man who underestimated you, Margaret corrected. There's a difference, darling. One is passive, one is active. Which do you prefer? Cassie thought about it. 90 days, 3 months, 13 weeks, living with Derek, pretending, playing a role, being strategic. Could she do it? Did she want to? Her phone buzzed, a text from Derek. We need to talk. Amber is pregnant too. I'm going to be a father twice over. We should handle this like adults. I'll give you $2 million to go quietly. Think about the baby. Think about what's best. $2 million is more money than you've ever had access to. Take it. Move on. Find someone more your speed. $2 million. Like that was generosity. Like she should be grateful. Like he had any idea who he was really married to. Cassie showed the text to Margaret and Ethan. Margaret's expression didn't change. Is Amber actually pregnant? I doubt it. That sounds like a pressure tactic. Make me think I'm being replaced completely. Make me desperate. Good instincts. Margaret set down her tea. So, what's your answer? 90 days of strategic patience or immediate divorce and potential collateral damage? Cassie thought about her daughter, the baby kicking in her belly. What kind of mother did she want to be? The kind who taught her daughter to run from fights, or the kind who taught her daughter to win them? I'll do it, Cassie said. 90 days. But I want documentation of everything. And I want protection. Legal, financial, personal. If Derek figures out what we're doing, if he gets violent, if anything happens to me or the baby, I need guarantees. Done, Ethan said. We'll have a security detail on you, discreet. You won't see them, but they'll be there. And you'll have a panic button, medical alert. Hit it, and we'll have people there in minutes. One more thing, Cassie said. I want to be part of this. Not just a pawn. I want to see the financial documents. I want to understand the acquisition. I want to be in the room when Derek signs the papers. This isn't just about protecting me. It's about teaching me, training me, preparing me to never be this vulnerable again. Margaret smiled, a real smile this time. Proud. Now you sound like a Whitmore. Mirror technique moment. As Cassie sat across from her mother and brother planning the destruction of her husband's empire, She realized her hands were perfectly steady, not shaking, not trembling, steady. This was the exact moment she stopped being Derek's victim and became his worst nightmare. I'll text him back, Cassie said. Accept his terms, play along, make him think he's winning. She typed, okay, 2 million, I'll take it. Just want this over. Send the papers to Julian Reeves's office. I'll sign. Derek's response was immediate. Smart choice. You'll be happier without me anyway. I was doing you a favor leaving. You just couldn't see it. The audacity, the narcissism, the complete lack of self-awareness. Cassie showed the text to Margaret. He really thinks he's doing you a favor? He really does. Good. Arrogance makes men sloppy. Let him think he's smarter than everyone else. Let him think he's won. And then when he's at his most confident, when he's absolutely certain he's gotten away with everything, we'll destroy him so completely he'll never recover. Validation whisper. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal. It was realizing I'd made myself small enough to fit into his idea of what I should be. I apologize for being pregnant, for having opinions, for taking up space. Never again. I'm done shrinking. Cassie moved back into the penthouse the next day, played the role of defeated wife, accepted Derek's terms, signed the preliminary papers. Derek was magnanimous in victory, generous, condescending. I'm glad you're being reasonable about this, he said over breakfast 3 days later. His first breakfast home in a week. I was worried you'd be difficult, emotional. You know how women get. Cassie bit her tongue, literally, bit the inside of her cheek until she tasted blood, because screaming at him would feel good for 5 seconds and destroy everything for 90 days. I just want what's fair, she said, voice small, apologetic, everything he expected. And you'll get it. 2 million is more than fair. It's generous, actually. You didn't contribute financially to the marriage. You didn't help build the company. You were supportive, sure, but that's what wives do. He poured himself coffee. You'll find someone new, someone more your speed, someone who doesn't have my level of ambition. Someone more your speed, like she was a broken-down car he was trading in. Where will you live, he asked. With the baby? You can't afford Manhattan on 2 million. Maybe New Jersey? Queens? I haven't thought about it. Well, you should. The baby comes in 3 months. You need to figure things out. Get organized. You know how scattered you can be. Scattered. He'd called her scattered for 5 years. Every time she forgot something. Every time she misunderstood. Every time she didn't meet his expectations. She wasn't scattered. She was exhausted from walking on eggshells. I'll figure it out, she said. Good. Oh, and Cassie, about the statement, the page 6 thing, I hope you understand that was necessary. I needed to control the narrative, protect my reputation. You understand, right? You called me mentally unstable. I called you struggling. There's a difference. And honestly, you have been paranoid, accusing me of things, making unfounded allegations. I was just being honest. Gaslighting classic, textbook, predictable. I understand, she said, because arguing was pointless, because he'd never admit the truth, because narcissists just don't apologize. I knew you would. You're a good woman, Cassie. You'll make someone very happy someday. Just not me. We weren't compatible. Better to end it now than waste more years. He left for work. Cassie sat at the breakfast table, alone, hands shaking with suppressed rage. Her phone buzzed, a text from Grace. How are you holding up? Do you need me to come over? I can leave work early. Cassie typed back, I'm okay, playing the role. It's harder than I thought. You're the strongest person I know. You've got this. And if you need to scream, call me. I'll scream with you. That night, Derek didn't come home until after midnight. Cassie heard him stumble in, heard him on the phone in the hallway. I know, baby, I know. Just a few more weeks. Once the divorce is final, we can be together. Publicly, properly. I'll take you to Paris, Monte Carlo, anywhere you want. Just be patient. Amber, he was talking to Amber. In their home. While Cassie pretended to sleep in the guest room, the cruelty was breathtaking. She recorded the conversation on her phone, sent it to Julian, added to the file. Evidence, documentation, ammunition. The next 2 weeks were performance art. Cassie played defeated. Derek played magnanimous. They circled each other in the penthouse like actors on a stage. At night alone in the guest room, Cassie broke down. The performance was exhausting. The emotional toll was crushing. She called Grace at 3 a.m. one night, hands shaking, breath short, panic rising. "What if I'm making a mistake?" she whispered. "What if I should just take the money and run? What if I'm being vindictive and it hurts the baby? What if he's right and I am unstable? What if I'm doing all of this just to hurt him and it makes me just as bad as he is?" "Stop." Grace's voice was firm. "You're not unstable. You're strategic. There's a difference. And that baby deserves a mother who doesn't teach her that lying down and taking abuse is love. You're teaching your daughter to fight back, to refuse victimhood, to demand justice. That's not vindictive. That's powerful. But what if I can't do this? What if I break? What if he realizes I'm faking and it all falls apart?" "Then it falls apart. But I don't think it will. I think you're stronger than you know. I think you've been strong this whole time. You've just been convinced you're weak. There's a difference." Deep vulnerability. Moment, and after talking to Grace, Cassie sat in the dark of the guest room, hand on her belly, baby kicking steadily, and she let herself feel the full weight of everything, the fear, the doubt, the bone-deep exhaustion of pretending to be okay when everything was falling apart. She let herself cry, really cry, the kind of crying that comes from the soul, the kind that leaves you empty and somehow lighter. Then she washed her face, took a breath, and went back to pretending. The settlement conference was scheduled for 3 weeks after Derek served the papers. Cassie arrived at the lawyer's office with Julian. Derek arrived with Bradford Keene. Expensive suit, expensive briefcase, expensive reputation for destroying wives. "My client is offering $2.5 million, Keene said. Professional, detached, like he was discussing a used car. Given that Mrs. Ashford brought no material assets to the marriage and that Mr. Ashford built his company before their union, this is more than generous." Julian didn't even look up from his notes. "Your client's company is currently valued at $400 million. New York is an equitable distribution state. Mrs. Ashford is entitled to her fair share of marital assets. The company was premarital. The company's growth during the marriage was not. The intellectual property developed during their marriage was not. The investments secured during their marriage were not. The value created during their union belongs to both parties." Derek leaned forward. His expression was kind, concerned, patronizing. "Cassie, please, let's be reasonable. You know I built this company from nothing. You were supportive, sure, but you didn't contribute financially. You didn't understand the technology. You didn't bring in investors. This is just fair." Fair. He kept using that word, like fairness had anything to do with this. Cassie looked directly at him, held his gaze, let him see something in her eyes that made him uncomfortable. "Fair would have been honesty," she said quietly. "Fair would have been loyalty. Fair would have been not serving me divorce papers while I'm carrying your child. But you're right about one thing. Let's be reasonable. I'll accept your $2.5 million. Derek's shoulders relaxed. Victory. He thought he'd won. Keene started to smile. "Plus," Cassie continued, voice perfectly calm, 51% of the company. The room went silent, the kind of silence that precedes earthquakes. Keene actually laughed. 51%? That's insane. Mrs. Ashford, I understand you're emotional, but that's not how equitable distribution works. We'll never agree to that." Julian pulled a folder from his briefcase. Thick, heavy, damning. Slid it across the table. "Then my client will exercise her rights under New York partnership law and force a full forensic audit of Ashford Tech, including all offshore accounts, all shell companies, all wire transfers to entities registered in the Cayman Islands, Luxembourg, and Delaware. We'll also be filing a complaint with the SEC regarding multiple instances of securities fraud we've already documented." Julian opened the folder. Bank records, wire transfers, shell company documentation, financial statements that showed exactly where $60 million went. The discovery period alone will tank your valuation, Julian continued. Your investors will panic, your board will revolt, and your client will face federal investigation that could result in 20 years in federal prison. So you have a choice, Mr. Keene. Give Mrs. Ashford majority control and Mr. Ashford steps down quietly, or face federal investigation and criminal charges. You have 72 hours to decide. Derek's face had gone white. His hands gripped the table edge. Where did you get those documents? Investigative journalism, Cassie said, and a very thorough attorney. You really should have changed your computer passwords, Derek. That was your first mistake. Underestimating me was your second. Hook. Moment, Keene gathered the documents, stood up. We need to consult with our client. We'll be in touch. After they left, Julian turned to Cassie. You did well. You didn't show emotion, didn't get rattled. That was perfect. I wanted to scream at him. I know, but you didn't. That's what matters. Control, strategy, patience. You're learning. Cassie looked at the folder, at the evidence of Derek's crimes, at the ammunition that would destroy him. How long until they respond? Days, maybe a week. Keene needs to explain to Derek exactly how much trouble he's in, needs to make him understand that fighting this means prison. Once Derek accepts that reality, he'll fold. Men like him always do. They're bullies, and bullies fold when someone fights back. That night, Derek came home angry, furious, threw his briefcase across the living room. You're bluffing, he said, standing over her while she sat on the couch. You don't have evidence of fraud. You're not smart enough to even understand what fraud looks like. You're a housewife with a fancy lawyer. That's all you are. You think you can intimidate me? You think you can threaten me? Mirror technique moment. Cassie bit the inside of her cheek. The old habit. The childhood coping mechanism. Bite. Breathe. Don't let them see. She'd been doing it since she was 7 years old. Every time her father yelled, every time her mother was disappointed, every time she needed to hide what she was feeling. And she was doing it now, tasting blood, holding back screams, protecting herself the only way she knew how. You're right, she said softly. I'm not smart enough. Good thing I have smart people working for me. You don't have anyone. You're completely alone. Your friend Grace, she's a nurse. What's she going to do? Your family? You haven't spoken to them in 5 years. You think they're going to help you now? After you walked away from them to marry me, they won't even take your calls. Maybe you're right, she said. Maybe I am alone. She stood up, walked past him, went to the guest room, locked the door, heard him punch the wall in the hallway, heard him curse, heard him leave the apartment, slammed the door. Her phone buzzed. Ethan. Derek's lawyer called and they want to negotiate. We've got him. Victory should feel triumphant. Instead, it felt exhausting, heavy, like winning was just another kind of burden. But she'd carry it. For her daughter, for herself, for every woman who'd been underestimated by a man who thought he was smarter than everyone else. She'd carry it and she'd win. The next morning, Derek was gone. His side of the Pennant house was empty, closets cleaned out, bathroom cleared. No note, just gone. Cassie walked through the empty spaces, rooms that used to be theirs, now just hers. The silence was heavy, final. Her phone rang. Julian. Derek's lawyer called. They want to settle. He's agreed to the acquisition. 51% to you through Whitmore Pharmaceuticals. He steps down as CEO, maintains a non-voting board seat, no severance, no golden parachute. It's over, Cassie. You won. She should feel relieved, triumphant, victorious. Instead, she felt hollow. When do we sign? Friday. 3 days. At your mother's estate. Derek insisted on neutral ground. He doesn't want to be in my office. Doesn't want more lawyers watching. Just him, you, witnesses, and signatures. Will Ethan be there? Your whole family will be there. Margaret insisted. This is a Whitmore acquisition. She wants Derek to understand exactly who he's been dealing with. 3 days, 72 hours. Then it would be over, really over. He spent those days in a fog, moving through the penthouse like a ghost. packing Derek's remaining things, painting over the butterflies in the nursery, erasing him. Grace came over every evening, brought food, made her eat, sat with her in silence when words were too much. "How are you feeling?" Grace asked on Thursday night, the night before the signing. "Empty, is that normal?" "I think so. You've been running on adrenaline and rage for weeks. Now it's ending. The letdown is natural." "I thought I'd feel happy, relieved, something positive." "Maybe you will, after it's really over, after you've had time to process. Right now, you're still in survival mode. Give yourself permission to just exist. You don't have to feel anything specific." That night, Cassie couldn't sleep. 7 months pregnant now. The baby pressed against her ribs, kicked her bladder, reminded her constantly that time was running out. 3 months until she became a mother. 3 months to figure out how to be a parent alone. She got up at 2 a.m., made decaf tea, sat in the living room looking out at Manhattan, city lights stretching forever. All those people, all those lives, all those stories. She thought about Derek, about the man she thought she'd married, about the man he actually was. Had she ever really known him? Or had she just loved her idea of him? She'd been so determined to prove love was enough, that she didn't need her family's money, that she could make it on her own, that being chosen was the ultimate achievement. But being chosen by the wrong person isn't an achievement. It's just another prison with prettier bars. Mirror technique moment. Cassie realized she was sitting in the dark, drinking tea, talking to herself. When had she started doing that? Sometime in the last few weeks. Talking to the baby, talking to herself, filling the silence with her own voice because being alone with her thoughts was too much. She wondered if this was what going crazy felt like. Then decided she didn't care. Crazy was just another word men used for women they couldn't control. Friday morning arrived. Cold. Gray. December wind cutting through the city. The car picked her up at 9 a.m. Black Mercedes. Same driver, same leather seats, same silence. The drive to Greenwich felt longer than usual, like the universe was giving her time to change her mind, to back out, to choose the easier path. But there was no easier path. There was only forward. The estate looked exactly like it had 2 weeks ago. Unchanged, solid, permanent, unlike everything else in her life. Derek's car was already there. A Tesla, silver, expensive. Exactly the kind of car a tech CEO would drive. Inside the library, everyone was waiting. Margaret, Ethan, Julian, Derek, Keene, Preston Montgomery. 2 witnesses Cassie didn't recognize. Derek looked smaller than she remembered. Diminished. Like defeat had physically shrunk him. "Let's begin," Margaret said. "No pleasantries, no small talk, just business." Julian laid out the papers. 7 pages, each one a death of Derek's dreams. Page 1. Transfer of 51% ownership of Ashford Tech to Cassandra Whitmore Ashford. Page 2. Resignation of Derek Ashford as Chief Executive Officer effective immediately. Page 3. Appointment of Derek Ashford to non-voting board seat. Page 4. Acquisition of Ashford Tech by Whitmore Pharmaceuticals through majority shareholder. Page 5. Dissolution of all offshore accounts and shell companies. Page 6, cooperation with SEC investigation in exchange for immunity from prosecution. Page 7, final settlement of divorce proceedings, $2.5 million to Cassandra Whitmore Ashford plus majority ownership stake. Derek stared at the papers. His hands shook. "You planned this, all of it. You've been working together this whole time." "No," Cassie said quietly. "You planned this when you had an affair, when you hid assets, when you committed fraud, when you underestimated me. I just responded." "This is all reaction, Derek. You're the action. I'm the consequence." Preston Montgomery stepped forward, Derek's business partner. His closest friend since college, the best man at their wedding. "Derek signed the papers," Preston said. "I've seen the evidence. I've talked to the SEC. You're going to prison if you don't. And honestly, you deserve worse than what they're offering." "You're on her side?" "I'm on the side of not being complicit in your fraud. I've been cooperating with their legal team for 3 weeks, providing documents, testifying, protecting myself from being dragged down with you. I'm out, Derek. The other board members are out. You're alone. The irony was perfect. Poetry, justice. Derek picked up the pen. His hand shook so badly he could barely hold it. "I loved you," he said to Cassie as he signed the first page. "I really did. Once." "No," she replied. Her voice was gentle, sad, honest. "You loved the idea of me, the version who made you feel important, who made you feel like you'd won something by convincing a rich girl to pretend to be poor. You never loved the real me because you never bothered to find out who that was. You were too busy congratulating yourself for landing a Whitmore." He signed us after page, each signature an admission, each page a loss. When he finished, he stood, looked at everyone in the room, at the Whitmore family united, at Preston, who'd betrayed him, at Keene, who couldn't save him. "You're all going to regret this," he said, "when the baby comes, when she asks about her father. You're going to have to explain how you destroyed him, how you took everything. She's going to hate you for it." "Maybe," Cassie said, "but she'll never wonder if I was strong enough to protect her. Can you say the same?" Derek left. They listened to his footsteps echo down the hall. The front door opened, closed, gone. The library was silent for a long moment. Then Margaret stood. "Well done, darling. You've just acquired your first company. How does it feel?" "Exhausting." "Good. Building empires should be exhausting. If it's easy, you're not doing it right." She poured champagne for everyone, sparkling cider for Cassie. "To Cassandra Whitmore, EO of Whitmore Digital Health, may your enemies always underestimate you." They toasted, drank, celebrated. But Cassie felt nothing, just empty, hollow. Like she'd won a war but lost something essential in the fighting. "It's normal to feel nothing right now," Ethan said quietly. "The relief comes later, after the shock wears off, after you realize you're safe." "When does that happen?" "When the baby comes, when you hold her and realize he can't hurt you anymore. That's when you'll feel it." Cassie hoped he was right. That evening her phone rang. Vanessa Ashford, Derek's mother, the woman who'd told her to take the settlement and go quietly. "I want to see my grandchild," Vanessa said with a preamble. "You can't keep me from—" "Watch me," Cassie said, and hung up. First boundary set, many more to come. She blocked Vanessa's number, blocked Derek's mother's email, blocked every Ashford except Derek himself because co-parenting required some communication. But everyone else, gone, erased, removed from her life as completely as she could manage. Her phone buzzed, a text from Amber Sterling. "We need to talk. Please. It's important. I'm not who you think I am." Cassie stared at the message. The other woman, the mistress, the model who'd stolen her husband. What could Amber possibly want to say? Against her better judgment, Cassie typed back. "Fine coffee, Monday, neutral location." Because maybe, just maybe, there was more to this story than she knew. And maybe, just maybe, Amber Sterling was another victim of Derek's lies. Validation. Whisper. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal. It was realizing I'd made myself small enough to fit into his idea of what I should be. I apologize for being pregnant, for having opinions, for taking up space. Never again. I'm done shrinking. The acquisition went public on Monday morning. The press release was carefully worded, professional, devastating. Whitmore Pharmaceuticals announces acquisition of Ashford Tech. Cassandra Whitmore Ashford appointed CEO of newly formed Whitmore Digital Health Division. Derek Ashford steps down after 5 years as CEO. By noon it was everywhere, tech news, business news, social media. The story was too good not to go viral. But then someone at page 6 made the connection. Cassandra Ashford, Cassandra Whitmore, Whitmore Pharmaceuticals. By 2 p.m. the headline changed. Plot twist, woman Derek Ashford divorced for being mentally unstable is actually billionaire pharmaceutical heiress. By 5 p.m. it was the #1 trending story on Twitter. The internet lost its collective mind. CEO divorces, pregnant wife, doesn't realize she's worth more than his entire company. This man really fumbled a billionaire while she was pregnant with his child. The audacity. She played the long game and won, respect. He called her mentally unstable and she responded by buying his company. That's not mental illness, that's mental excellence. Karma is a woman with a trust fund and receipts. My brother in Christ, she is the golden goose. You divorced the golden goose while she was laying your golden egg. Grace read the tweets aloud while Cassie sat in her new office at Whitmore Pharmaceuticals. Corner office, view of Manhattan, her nameplate already on the desk. Oh, this one's good, Grace said. Men will really throw away a whole billionaire for an Instagram model. Make it make sense. I was never trying to be a golden goose, Cassie said quietly. I was trying to be loved for myself. I know, and you will be, by someone who deserves you, but right now, enjoy watching the internet destroy him. It's cathartic. It should have been cathartic. Should have felt good watching Derek get eviscerated online, watching his reputation crumble, watching everyone see him for what he really was. But mostly Cassie just felt tired. Her phone rang. Nina Berkshire. Cassie, have you seen the news? I'm living the news. I know, and I'm sorry to pile on, but I need to tell you something. The SEC investigation is moving forward. They've subpoenaed Derek's records, frozen his accounts. He's going to be charged, probably within the month. I wanted you to hear it from me before it goes public. Thank you for everything, for giving me the evidence, for believing me. Women need to protect each other. I meant that. Also, my editor wants to do a profile on you, the woman who bought her ex-husband's company. They're calling you the Beyoncé of divorce. What do you think? I think I need to talk to my family's PR team. Smart. Call me when you're ready. The story isn't going away. Might as well control the narrative. After Nina hung up, Cassie sat alone in her office. 7 months pregnant, IO of a company she'd acquired 3 days ago. Divorcing a man who was about to face federal charges. How had her life become this? A knock on the door. Ethan. Hey, how are you holding up? I don't know. Is this normal? To feel nothing? You've been in crisis mode for weeks. Your nervous system is probably shot. Give yourself time. He sat down across from her. I brought you something. He handed her a folder. The latest financials for Whitmore Digital Health. The company Derek built, or thought he built. Cassie opened the folder. Page after page of data. Revenue, expenses, projections. It's not as bad as we thought, Ethan said. The core technology is actually solid. The team is good. It's just Derek's fraud that poisoned everything. Once we clean that up, install proper financial controls, this could actually be profitable. You're saying I might have accidentally acquired a good company? I'm saying you definitely acquired a good company that was being run by a terrible person. Big difference. Cassie studied the numbers. For the first time in weeks, she felt something other than exhaustion. She felt interested, curious, engaged. I want to learn this, she said. Sheba, really learn it. Not just be a figurehead CEO. I want to understand the technology, the business model, the team, everything. Then we'll teach you. That's what family does. That evening, Cassie met Amber Sterling at a coffee shop in the West Village. Neutral ground, public, safe. Amber was younger than her photos suggested, 24 but looking closer to 20, thin, beautiful, fragile somehow. Thank you for meeting me, Amber said. Her hands shook as she held her coffee. I wasn't sure you would. I almost didn't. Why did you want to talk? Because I need you to know something. I'm not pregnant. I was never pregnant. Derek told me to say that to you. He thought it would pressure you to settle quickly, that you'd be devastated by the idea of him having a replacement family. Cassie had suspected, but hearing it confirmed still hurt. Why are you telling me this? Because I found out what he did to you. The statements, the lies calling you mentally unstable. And I found out what else he's been doing. He's been stealing from me too. How? Using my family's business connections. Dropping my name to secure meetings with my father's associates. Promising deals with my family that don't exist. Making me look like an idiot. My father is furious. I'm mortified. And I realized something. What? You weren't his only victim, Ms. Whitmore. You were just his longest con. I was just the newest one, and there's probably been women in between. Women he used and discarded when they stopped being useful. Cassie looked at Amber. Really looked at her. saw past the beauty to the person underneath. Young, naive, manipulated. "What are you going to do?" Cassie asked. "I already did it. I filed a police report for fraud and identity theft. I gave statements to the SEC about the offshore accounts he told me were just tax minimization. I broke up with him. And I'm telling you because—" Amber paused, took a breath. "Because I'm sorry for my part in hurting you. I knew he was married. I knew you were pregnant. I told myself it didn't matter, that you probably deserved it somehow, that if your marriage was good, he wouldn't have cheated. All the things women tell themselves when they're the other woman. But I was wrong, and I'm sorry." Mirror technique. Moment Cassie realized she wasn't angry at Amber anymore. She wasn't anything, just tired. The amount of energy I wasted on hating the wrong person, she thought. She was just another one of his lies, another piece in his game. We were both marks, different cons, same con man. "Thank you for apologizing," Cassie said. "That took courage. What happens now, to you and the baby?" "We figure it out, one day at a time. That's all anyone can do. If you need anything, a statement for court, testimony, whatever, I'll do it. I owe you that much." After Amber left, Cassie sat alone in the coffee shop, hands on her belly, baby kicking steadily. She thought about justice, about revenge, about the difference between the two. Derek was losing everything: his company, his reputation, his freedom probably. Soon he'd face federal charges, prison time, social destruction. That was justice, but revenge would have been destroying him personally, taking pleasure in his pain, rubbing his face in his failures. And she didn't feel that, didn't want that, just wanted him gone, out of her life, out of her space, out of her future. She wanted to be free of him, and surprisingly, she was starting to feel that freedom. The anger was fading, the hurt was becoming more like a scar than a wound, still there, still visible, but not actively bleeding anymore. Maybe that was healing, maybe that was growth, maybe that was what winning actually looked like. Not destruction of your enemy, but liberation of yourself. She texted Amber, "If you need a reference for law school or an internship, let me know. Women who learn fast deserve second chances." The response came immediately. "Thank you. You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did. We're not enemies. We never were. He just convinced us we were." That night, Cassie went to prenatal yoga for the first time in 3 weeks. Her body ached, her back hurt, her hips were misaligned from carrying 30 extra pounds. But being in the room with other pregnant women, all sharing this strange journey into motherhood, felt grounding, real, human. During Savasana, the instructor said, "Release what no longer serves you." And Cassie did. She let go of the anger, the hurt, the betrayal, the years of making herself small, the need for Derek to acknowledge what he'd done, the fantasy that he'd apologize or change, or suddenly become the man she'd thought she married. She released all of it, let it go, made space for something new. After class, a woman approached her, pregnant, about her age, kind eyes. "I'm sorry, but are you Cassandra Whitmore? I saw the news." Cassie braced for judgment, for questions, for invasive curiosity. "I'm Jennifer Morris," the woman continued. "I was one of Derek's first investors. I put $2 million into his company 5 years ago. I just wanted to say thank you for exposing the fraud, for saving the company, for protecting the rest of us from losing everything. You didn't have to do that. You could have just taken your settlement and walked away. But you didn't, and I'm grateful." "How many investors are there?" Cassie asked. 43, and we're all grateful. Some of us want to send a statement of support. For when the press tries to paint you as vindictive or bitter, we want people to know you saved us. That matters." "Thank you," Cassie said. "That means more than you know." As she drove home, Cassie thought about allies, about the network of people who'd shown up when she needed them. Her family, Grace, Julian, Nina, Jennifer. Even Amber, in her own way, she wasn't alone. She'd never been alone. She'd just been convinced she was by a man who needed her isolated to control her. But now she was free, supported, surrounded by people who saw her as she really was. And maybe that was the real victory, Not destroying Derek, but building a life where he was irrelevant. Breathing room scene. That night, Cassie sat in her apartment, her new apartment, the one she'd moved into after leaving the penthouse, smaller, quieter. Hers. She made tea, put on soft music, sat by the window looking out at the city. The baby kicked, strong, insistent, demanding attention. Cassie put her hand on her belly. I know, she whispered. I know you're there. I know you're coming soon. And I promise you, I promise, you'll never watch me make myself small. You'll never see me apologize for existing. You'll grow up knowing that women don't have to shrink to be loved. That strength isn't masculine. That power isn't masculine. That refusing to be victimized isn't masculine. It's just human, just right, just justice. The baby kicked again, like she agreed, like she understood. And for the first time in months, Cassie felt hope. 2 weeks after the acquisition, the SEC formally charged Derek with securities fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering. The news broke at 8 a.m. on a Tuesday. By 9 a.m., it was everywhere. Former tech CEO Derek Ashford charged with defrauding investors of $60 million. Ashford tech scandal, CEO accused of running Ponzi-adjacent scheme. Ex-husband of pharmaceutical heiress faces 20 years in federal prison. Cassie was in a meeting when it happened. Revenue projections for Whitmore Digital Health. Her first real CEO meeting. Her first chance to prove she could do this job. Lottie burst in. Miss Whitmore, the SEC just announced charges against Derek. It's all over the news. The room went silent. 10 executives staring at her, waiting to see how she'd react. Cassie took a breath. Okay, thank you, Lottie. We'll address that after this meeting. Right now, we're discussing Q4 projections. I believe we were on slide 12. The meeting continued. Professional, focused, no drama. But inside, Cassie's heart was racing. It was really happening. Derek was being held accountable, publicly, officially, permanently. After the meeting, she called Julian. I assume you heard, Oman, he said. Hard to miss. What happens now? Now Derek hires a criminal defense attorney, probably someone expensive and excellent. They'll try to negotiate a plea deal. The SEC has him dead to rights, $60 million in documented fraud, wire transfers, falsified reports, lies to investors. He's looking at 15 to 20 years minimum. Will I have to testify? Probably, as his ex-wife, as the person who discovered the fraud, as the CEO who cooperated with investigators. Yes, you'll testify, but Cassie, you're the hero in this story. The whistleblower who saved 43 investors from losing everything. The woman who exposed corruption. That's how history will remember you. I don't feel like a hero. I feel tired. That's because heroism is exhausting. But you did it anyway. That's what makes it heroic. That afternoon, Margaret called. Family dinner, tonight, 7 p.m., Greenwich. Don't be late. We're celebrating. Celebrating what? Your first successful acquisition. Derek's impending imprisonment. The fact that you're 7.5 months pregnant and still showing up every day. Take your pick. Just be here. The dinner was everything Cassie expected. Formal, elegant, excessive. Margaret at the head of the table in diamonds and Chanel. Ethan to her right in another impeccable suit. Cassie to her left, pregnant and tired and trying to keep up. To Cassandra, Margaret raised her glass. Who remembered she's a Whitmore? Finally. They drank, ate, talked business and strategy in the future of Whitmore Digital Health. The team you brought in is excellent, Ethan said between courses. We're on track for profitability by Q2 next year. The technology is solid. The vision is sound. It's just Derek's fraud that poisoned everything. Once that's cleared up, this division could be worth billions. Preston wants to stay on, Cassie said. As COO, he knows the business, knows the team, and he cooperated fully with the SEC investigation. I think we should keep him. Agreed, Margaret said. Loyalty matters. Even loyalty that comes late is better than no loyalty at all. After dinner, Cassie walked through the gardens with her mother. December cold, clear sky, stars visible despite the light pollution from the city. How are you really doing? Margaret asked. No pretense, no performance, just mother and daughter. I don't know. Some days I feel strong. Some days I feel like I'm falling apart. Most days I feel both at the same time. That's called being human, darling. Messy, complicated, contradictory. Welcome to it. Did you feel this way when you divorced dad? Worse, I had 2 children, no career, and a husband who tried to take everything. But I survived, built an empire, raised you and Ethan, became more than I ever was when I was married. You will too. What if I can't do this? Be a CEO and a mother and a single parent and everything else? Then you'll fail spectacularly, fall flat on your face and get up and try again. That's what Whitmores do. We don't give up. We don't quit. We adapt and overcome. It's in your DNA. Mirror technique moment. Standing in the garden with her mother, Cassie realized she was standing exactly how Margaret stood. Hands behind her back, chin up, shoulders back. The posture of power, the stance of women who refuse to break. She'd spent 5 years trying not to become her mother. But maybe becoming her mother wasn't the worst thing in the world. Maybe it was exactly what she needed. I'm scared, Cassie admitted, of being a single mother, of raising a daughter alone, of messing her up. Good. Fear means you care. The only parents who aren't scared are the ones who shouldn't be parents. You'll be fine. Better than fine. You'll be excellent. How do you know? Because you're my daughter, and I don't produce anything less than excellent. They walked back to the house. Cassie spent the night in her childhood bedroom, the room Margaret had preserved exactly as it was. Photos from high school, trophies from debate team, books from college, a time capsule of who she used to be. She lay in her old bed, hands on her belly, baby kicking constantly now, running out of room, getting ready for the world. 2 more months, Cassie whispered. 2 more months and I meet you. I can't wait. I'm terrified, but I can't wait. Her phone buzzed, a text from Derek. It's from, I know you cooperated with the SEC. I know you're the reason I'm facing charges. I hope you're happy. I hope destroying me was worth it. Our daughter is going to grow up knowing her mother put her father in prison. I hope you can live with that. Cassie stared at the message, the manipulation, the victim blaming, the complete lack of accountability. She typed back, our daughter is going to grow up knowing her mother refused to be victimized, that her mother chose justice over convenience, that her mother protected 43 families from financial ruin. I can live with that. Can you? Send. Then she blocked his number, added it to the list of people she'd removed from her life, drew the boundary clearly, firmly, finally, no more direct communication. Everything through lawyers, everything documented, everything at arm's length. She was done engaging with him, done defending herself, done explaining, done justifying. She was done. The next morning, she woke up to 17 missed calls, all from unknown numbers, all from reporters wanting comments on Derek's charges. She called Margaret's PR team, gave a single statement. I'm grateful to the SEC for their thorough investigation. I'm proud to have cooperated fully. I'm focused on leading Whitmore Digital Health and preparing for my daughter's arrival. I have no further comment on my ex-husband's legal troubles. Professional, brief, final. By noon, it was quoted everywhere, and the narrative shifted again. She wasn't the bitter ex-wife. She was the responsible CEO, the ethical businesswoman, the whistleblower who chose integrity over loyalty. The court of public opinion had rendered a new verdict. She was the good guy. Derek was the villain. Case closed. Preston called that afternoon. Have you seen the team's response to the charges? No, what response? They're all posting on LinkedIn, supporting you, thanking you for saving the company, explaining that you exposed Derek's fraud and protected their jobs. It's going viral. You've got 300 employees publicly defending you. That's powerful. Cassie pulled up LinkedIn. Post after post from people she barely knew. Cassandra Whitmore saved my job and my family's financial security. Thank you for your courage. I'm proud to work for a CEO who chose ethics over convenience. Cassie Whitmore is the leader we needed. Derek Ashford is the cautionary tale we deserved. The support was overwhelming, unexpected. humbling. She'd spent weeks feeling alone, isolated, like she was fighting this battle by herself. But she wasn't alone. She'd never been alone. She'd just been convinced by the person who needed her isolated to control her. Layer 6, quiet strength. That evening, Cassie sat in her office after everyone left. The building was silent, empty, just her and the city lights. She pulled out a notebook, started writing. Not for anyone else, just for herself. Things I know now that I didn't know before. 1. Being underestimated is a strategic advantage. 2. Patience is more powerful than anger. The best revenge is complete irrelevance. 4. Family isn't about never leaving. It's about being there when you come back. 5. Strength isn't about never breaking. It's about getting up after you break. Love that requires you to disappear isn't love. It's just another cage 7. You can't make someone see your value if they're determined to believe you are worthless. Justice is slow, but it's real. Women supporting women is revolutionary. 10. I'm enough. I've always been enough. I just forgot for a while. She closed the notebook, took a breath, felt something shift inside her. Not happiness exactly, not triumph. Something quieter, deeper, more permanent. Peace. She was at peace for the first time in months, maybe for the first time in 5 years. And that was everything. The baby came 2 weeks early on a Tuesday in January. Cassie woke up at 3 a.m. in a puddle, confused, disoriented. Then, this is happening. Contractions started immediately. 5 minutes apart, strong, insistent, no warm-up, just straight to active labor. She called Grace, called Margaret, called Ethan. All 3 met her at the hospital within an hour. Labor lasted 14 hours. Long, brutal, exhausting, beautiful in the way that pain can be beautiful when it means something. At 5:32 p.m., Eleanor Margaret Whitmore entered the world. 8 pounds, 6 ounces, screaming with indignation at being evicted from the warm darkness into cold, bright hospital lights. Cassie held her daughter for the first time and understood everything, every cliche about motherhood, every impossible feeling, every fierce protective instinct. This was what mattered. Everything else was just noise. Eleanor had Derek's chin, Cassie's eyes. Her own personality from the first moment. Loud, demanding, unapologetic about her needs. She's perfect, Grace whispered, crying, happy tears. She's a Whitmore, Margaret said, touching Eleanor's tiny hand. Strong, stubborn, going to run the world someday. Ethan just stood there, speechless, looking at his niece like she was a miracle, which she was. Derek came to the hospital the next day. He was allowed supervised visitation. Court-ordered, lawyer negotiated. Cassie received him in her private room, Eleanor asleep in her arms. She's beautiful, Derek said. He looked older, worn, like the last 3 months had aged him 5 years. Yes, she is. Can I hold her? Cassie considered. This was his daughter, too. Biology didn't care about betrayal. Genetics didn't require good character. Not today, she said, but we'll arrange visitation through lawyers, supervised at first, gradually building to unsupervised as you prove you can be trusted. We'll see how it goes. Cassie, I'm sorry. For everything. I was stupid and arrogant, and I threw away the best thing in my life. Yes, you did. Is there any chance we could? No. The word was firm, final, free. But there's a chance you can be a good father. Not to me, I'm done, but to Eleanor. That starts with being honest, with her and with yourself, with taking responsibility, with showing up consistently. I hope you figure it out, for her sake. I want to try, then try, prove it. Don't tell me. Show Eleanor. She's the one who matters now. He reached out like he was going to touch her hand, stopped himself, nodded, left. Cassie didn't watch him go, kept her eyes on Eleanor, on the future, on what came next. 3 days later, she brought Eleanor home, to her apartment, to the nursery she'd prepared alone, to the life they'd built together. Grace helped her settle in, showed her how to change diapers properly, how to swaddle, how to survive on 3 hours of sleep. You're going to be an amazing mother, Grace said. I hope so. I'm terrified. Every good mother is terrified. It's the ones who think they know everything who screw up their kids. The first 2 weeks were a blur, feeding every 2 hours, no sleep, no showers, no sense of time, just survival. But even through the exhaustion, Cassie felt something she hadn't felt in years. Joy, pure, uncomplicated joy. Eleanor was hers, entirely hers. No one could take her, no one could threaten her. She was safe, protected, loved absolutely. At 2 weeks old, Eleanor smiled for the first time. A real smile, not gas, not coincidence. A smile, Cassie cried. Happy tears, grateful tears. This is what everything was for, tears. Mirror technique moment. Sitting in the dark at 3 a.m. feeding Eleanor, Cassie realized she was singing. Her mother's lullaby. The one Margaret sang to her as a child. The melodies she'd forgotten she knew. Passed down through generations of Whitmore women, who spent 5 years making herself smaller and smaller, trying to fit into Derek's idea of who she should be. That woman was gone, burned away in the fire of betrayal and transformation. In her place, someone stronger, wiser, more herself than she'd ever been. Derek's trial had ended last week. 15 years in federal prison, 50 million in restitution, complete social destruction. Cassie had testified, calmly, clearly, told the truth without emotion or drama. Let the facts speak for themselves. When it was over, the prosecutor thanked her. You saved a lot of families. That matters. It did matter. More than revenge. More than winning. More than watching him lose. Saving people mattered. Choosing integrity mattered. Refusing to be victimized mattered. That was justice. That was power. That was everything. We're going to be just fine, Cassie said to Eleanor, to herself, to the woman she was who thought love meant shrinking. Actually, we're going to be better than fine. We're going to be free. The baby slept. The sun rose. The story continued. But the cage was empty now, and Cassie finally remembered how to fly. 6 months later, Cassie stood in front of 300 people giving a keynote speech at a women in business conference. I used to think being chosen was the ultimate achievement, she said. I walked away from billions of dollars to prove I could be loved for myself. And I did find love, or what I thought was love. Turns out it was just another beige with prettier bars. The audience listened, silent, attentive. When my ex-husband served me divorce papers while I was 6 months pregnant, I thought my life was over. I thought I'd lost everything. I thought being abandoned meant being destroyed. But I learned something, being underestimated is a strategic advantage. Being dismissed means people stop watching you. And when people stop watching, you're free to become dangerous. Laughter rippled through the crowd. I'm not telling you to get divorced. I'm not telling you to blow up your life. I'm telling you that when your life blows up anyway, when everything you thought was solid turns out to be sand, you have choices. You can shrink, or you can expand. You can accept other people's narratives about who you are, or you can write your own story. Choose expansion. Choose your own story. Choose yourself. The applause was thunderous. Afterward, women lined up to talk to her, to thank her, to share their own stories of underestimation and triumph and survival. One woman in her 50s grabbed Cassie's hand. My daughter is in an abusive marriage. She won't leave because she's afraid. Can I give her your number? Better than that, Cassie said. Give her my email. I'll connect her with resources, legal help, financial planning, a network of women who've been there. She doesn't have to do it alone. Another woman, younger, maybe 25. I'm about to walk away from my family's business to marry someone. After hearing you speak, I think I might be making a mistake. Don't let me make your decisions for you, Cassie said carefully, but ask yourself this. Does he celebrate your ambition? Or does he need you to be less so he can feel like more? One is love, the other is control. Learn to tell the difference. By the time Cassie left the conference, she had 17 new contacts, 17 women who needed help, guidance, mentorship, a hand up. She couldn't save everyone, but she could try. That became her side project. Cassie's Collective, they called it. A private network of women helping women, legal resources, financial advice, career mentorship, emotional support. It started with 20 women. Within 6 months, it was 300. Within a year, 3,000. Women protecting women. The most revolutionary act there was. Eleanor turned 18 months old, started walking, started talking, started asserting her considerable will. No became her favorite word. Mine was a close second. She's very strong-willed, the nanny said diplomatically. She's a Whitmore, Cassidy replied. Strong-willed is a feature, not a bug. Derek had supervised visitation every other weekend. He showed up mostly, tried mostly, was adequate mostly. Eleanor tolerated him, didn't cling to him, didn't cry when he left, just accepted him as a fact of her life without much emotional investment. She doesn't love me, Derek said during a custody review meeting. He looked sad, diminished. Prison had broken something in him. She lights up when she sees you, but with me, she's just tolerant. Love is earned, Cassie said. Not unkindly, just truthfully. You can't demand it. You can't manipulate it. You have to show up consistently. Be reliable. Be present. Put her needs before yours. That's how you earn it. I'm trying. I know. Keep trying. Maybe someday it'll be enough. They weren't enemies anymore. Weren't anything really. Just two people co-parenting a child, doing their best, mostly failing, occasionally succeeding. That was enough. Grace had a baby 6 months after Eleanor's second birthday. A boy, 8 pounds even. Perfect. Cassie held him in the hospital, looked at her friend, saw the exhaustion and joy and terror and love all mixed together. It's worth it, right? Grace asked. All of it. Every second, even the hard parts, especially the hard parts. Do you ever regret it, having Eleanor with Derek? Wish you'd waited for someone better? Never. She's exactly who she's supposed to be. And I'm exactly who I'm supposed to be. We found each other exactly when we needed to. That's not regret. That's fate. 2 years after the divorce was finalized, Cassie attended a charity gala. Black tie, Manhattan. The kind of event where deals get made and alliances form. A man approached her at the bar. Distinguished. Early 50s. Kind eyes. No wedding ring. Cassandra Whitmore, he said, I've been hoping to meet you. I'm Robert Kensington. I run the foundation that funds your women's collective. Mr. Kensington, thank you for your support. We couldn't do this work without you. Call me Robert, and I should be thanking you. You're doing revolutionary work, changing lives, building power structures that include women instead of excluding them. That matters more than money ever could. They talk for an hour about the collective, about justice, about power dynamics and systemic change, and how to build something better than what exists. He was smart, funny, engaged, listened more than he talked, asked questions that showed he'd actually read her work. When he asked for her number, she gave it. When he called 3 days later, she answered. When he asked her to dinner, she said yes. Is it too soon? She asked Grace. It's only been 2 years. Am I ready for this? Only you know if you're ready. But Cassie, you're allowed to be happy. You're allowed to want things. You're allowed to let someone in. You don't have to be a fortress forever. The first date was coffee, safe, public, no expectations. Robert was easy to talk to, asked about Eleanor, about work, about her life. Didn't try to fix anything, didn't offer unsolicited advice, just listened. I should tell you, Cassie said, I'm not good at this. Dating, being vulnerable, trusting people. My ex-husband did a number on me. I read about it. The whole country read about it. And for what it's worth, I think you handled it with more grace than most people could manage. I didn't feel graceful. I felt like I was drowning. Grace isn't about how you feel. It's about how you act despite how you feel. You acted with integrity when revenge would have been easier. That's grace. They went on a second date, then a third, then a fourth. He met Eleanor on date number 7. Brought her a stuffed butterfly. Played blocks on the floor. Didn't try too hard, didn't perform. Just existed in her space comfortably. Eleanor looked at him, looked at Cassie, said, nice man, Mama. Yes, baby, nice man. 3 months into dating, Robert asked, what are we doing here? I need to know if this is going somewhere or if we're just passing time. I don't know, Cassie said honestly. I want this to go somewhere, but I'm scared, terrified actually, of making the same mistakes, of being wrong about someone again, of letting my daughter get attached to someone who leaves. I'm not asking for marriage. I'm not asking for forever. I'm just asking if you're willing to try, to see where this goes, to be open to the possibility that maybe not all men are like your ex-husband, that maybe some of us are worth the risk. She thought about it, really thought about it, then said, yes, I'm willing to try, but slowly and with boundaries. And with the understanding that if this doesn't work, we're adults about it. No drama, no destruction, just honest conversation and mutual respect. I can do that. And he did, for 6 months, then a year, then 18 months. He was steady, reliable, present, showed up when he said he would, called when he said he'd call, integrated into her life without trying to control it. Eleanor adored him, called him Bertie because Robert was too many syllables, climbed on him like a jungle gym, demanded stories and snacks and attention. And he gave it, freely, without resentment, without keeping score. Is this what it's supposed to feel like? Cassie asked Grace 2 years into the relationship. This easy? This calm? Yes, that's what healthy feels like. You're just not used to it because you spent 5 years in chaos pretending it was love. On Eleanor's 3rd birthday, Robert proposed. Not dramatically, not at the party, just the two of them after Eleanor went to bed. I love you, he said simply. I love Eleanor. I love the life we're building. I want to make it official. But Cassie, I need you to know something. I'm not asking you to make yourself smaller. I'm not asking you to choose between your career and our relationship. I'm not asking you to be anything other than exactly who you are. I'm just asking if you want a partner. Someone to share the load, to celebrate the wins, to weather the losses. That's all I'm offering. Partnership. Nothing more, nothing less. She looked at the ring. Simple, elegant, perfect. Can I think about it? Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. She talked to Margaret, to Ethan, to Grace, to Eleanor's therapist, who she'd been seeing since the divorce to make sure she was parenting well, despite everything. Everyone said the same thing. This one's different. This one's good. Don't let trauma from the past rob you of happiness in the present. She talked to Eleanor. 3 years old, but surprisingly wise. Would you like it if Bertie lived with us all the time? Cassie asked. Would he make pancakes? Probably. Then yes, I like pancakes. 3-year-old logic was surprisingly sound. 6 months after the proposal, Cassie said yes. They married in a small ceremony in the Greenwich Gardens. 30 people. Eleanor as flower girl, Grace as maid of honor, Ethan giving Cassie away. Margaret cried. Actual tears. I didn't think I'd cry at another one of your weddings, but this one feels different. This one feels right. It is right, Cassie said. Finally. The vows were simple, honest, real. I promise to celebrate your strength, not fear it. I promise to support your ambitions, not diminish them. I promise to be a partner, not a project. I promise to love you as you are, not as I wish you'd be. I promise to trust you, even when it's scary. I promise to let you in, even when it's hard. Promise to build a life with you, not for you. I promise to love you honestly, not perfectly. They kissed, married, partners. Eleanor shouted, pancakes! Everyone laughed. That was love. That was family. That was everything. 5 years after Derek served divorce papers, Cassie stood in her office at Whitmore Digital Health. The company had gone public 2 years ago. IPO valuation, $2.8 billion. She was worth, on paper, over $3 billion. But that wasn't the wealth that mattered. The wealth that mattered was Eleanor. Healthy, happy, thriving. Starting pre-K in the fall. The wealth that mattered was Robert. Steady, present, making pancakes every Sunday. The wealth that mattered was the collective, 8,000 women now, supporting each other, lifting each other, changing the world one life at a time. The wealth that mattered was Margaret, proud, loving, present in ways she hadn't been before. The wealth that mattered was Grace, best friend, co-conspirator, sister in all but blood. That was the real fortune, not the money, the people, the love, the life she'd built from ashes. Derek was released from prison after serving 8 years. Good behavior, model prisoner, whatever that meant. He called, asked to see Eleanor. She was 8 now, old enough to have opinions. "Do you want to see your father?" Cassie asked. Eleanor thought about it. "Will you come with me?" "If you want me to." "Then okay, but just for ice cream, not for a long time." They met at a park, public, safe, supervised by Cassie's presence, if not officially. Derek looked older, broken, humbled in ways that 8 years in federal prison will do. "Hi, Eleanor," he said, awkward, uncertain. "You probably don't remember me." "I remember," Eleanor said. "Mama showed me pictures. You're my biological father, but Bertie is my dad." Mama explained the difference. Out of the mouths of children, Derek's face crumpled, but he held it together. "That's fair. That's more than fair. I wasn't there. I made mistakes. I hurt people. I hurt you and your mother. I'm sorry." "It's okay," Eleanor said, with the magnanimity only children possess. "People make mistakes. Mama says what matters is if you learn from them." They ate ice cream, talked about school, about Eleanor's piano lessons, about her friends, about nothing important and everything important. After an hour, Eleanor said, "I'm ready to go home now." Derek looked at Cassie. "Thank you for this, for not poisoning her against me. You didn't have to do that." "No, I didn't. But she deserved the chance to form her own opinions. That's not about you, it's about her." As they walked away, Eleanor said, "He's sad, Mama." "Yes, he is." "Because he made bad choices?" "Yes. I'm glad I have you and Bertie. You make good choices." "Not always, baby, but I try. That's all anyone can do. Try to make good choices. Learn from the bad ones. Keep trying." 10 years after Derek served divorce papers, Cassie was invited to give the commencement speech at Columbia Business School. She stood at the podium, looked out at hundreds of graduates, young, hopeful, terrified, excited, ready to conquer the world. "10 years ago," she began, "I was 6 months pregnant, sitting on the floor of my nursery holding divorce papers. My husband had just left me for a younger woman. He'd called me mentally unstable in the press. He was committing fraud I didn't know about yet, and I thought my life was over. I was wrong, my life wasn't ending. It was beginning, I just couldn't see it yet. Here's what I learned. Being underestimated is a gift. Being dismissed means people stop watching you. And when people stop watching, you're free to become powerful. But power isn't about destruction. It's not about revenge. It's not about making your enemies suffer. Real power is about building something so magnificent that your enemies become irrelevant. Real power is about lifting others while you rise, about creating systems that include instead of exclude, about using your platform to amplify voices that have been silenced. Real power is about choosing integrity when compromise would be easier, about choosing truth when lies would be more comfortable, about choosing yourself when everyone else is telling you to shrink. So here's my challenge to you. Don't just build companies, build legacies. Don't just make money, make meaning. Don't just succeed, help others succeed with you. And if someone tries to make you smaller, if someone tells you your ambitions are too big, if someone suggests you should compromise your dreams for their comfort, remember this: you are not too much. They are simply not enough. Now go change the world. I'll be watching, cheering, and funding your ventures through Cassie's Collective. Because women supporting women isn't just nice, it's revolutionary. The applause lasted 5 minutes. Afterward, a young woman approached, 22 maybe, eager, scared, determined. "Ms. Whitmore, I'm graduating today with $200,000 in student debt and a startup idea I'm terrified to pursue because everyone says it's too risky. What would you do?" Cassie looked at her, saw herself 10 years ago, young, uncertain, waiting for permission to be great. "I'd pursue it," Cassie said. "Fear means it matters. Risk means it's worth doing. And debt? Debt is just another problem to solve. You know what's riskier than starting a business? Spending your life wondering what would have happened if you'd tried. Will you mentor me? No, I'll invest in you. There's a difference. Send me your pitch deck. If it's good, you'll have seed funding by next month. If it's great, you'll have me as a board member. Show me great. The girl's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. You have no idea what this means. I do know someone gave me a chance when I needed it most. I'm paying it forward. That's how this works. We lift each other, always. That night, Cassie came home to chaos. Eleanor was 13 now, teenager, all hormones and opinions and drama. Mom, Izzy said I can't go to the concert because her mom thinks I'm a bad influence because of what grandfather Derek did. Can you believe that? Robert was in the kitchen making dinner. Pancakes for dinner because Eleanor had specifically requested breakfast food and Robert could never say no to her. Breathe, Cassie said. First, breathe. Okay, Mom. Second, Izzy's mom is an idiot. Third, you're not responsible for your grandfather's crimes. Fourth, we'll figure it out. How? I'll call Izzy's mom, explain the situation. Remind her that children are not responsible for their parents' mistakes. And if she's still unreasonable, then Izzy isn't a real friend anyway. That's so unfair. You're right, it is unfair. Life is unfair. But here's what you do with unfair. You refuse to let it make you bitter. You refuse to let other people's small-mindedness make you small. You hold your head up and you keep being exactly who you are. That's how you win. Eleanor hugged her, fierce, tight. I love you, Mom. I love you too, baby. Now go wash up. Pancakes are ready. Over dinner, Eleanor said, Mom, do you think I'll get married someday? Maybe, if you want to, if you find someone worth marrying. How do I know if they're worth it? Cassie thought about Derek, about Robert, about the difference between the two. They're worth it if they celebrate your success instead of feeling threatened by it. If they make you feel more yourself, not less. If they handle your bad days with grace and your good days with genuine joy. If they see you as a partner, not a prize. If they love you as you are, not as they wish you'd be. Is that how Bertie loves you? Yes, baby. That's exactly how Bertie loves me. Then I want that. Exactly that. Nothing less. Good. Never settle for less than you deserve. Ever. Robert reached across the table, squeezed Cassie's hand, smiled. This was what she'd been searching for. Not perfection, not fairy tale romance, just partnership, respect, love that didn't require her to disappear. That night after Eleanor went to bed, Cassie stood in her home office, looked at the photos on the wall. Eleanor as a newborn, tiny, perfect, screaming. Eleanor at 1, covered in birthday cake. Laughing, Eleanor at 5, first day of kindergarten. Nervous, excited. Eleanor at 10, piano recital, confident, poised. Eleanor at 13, right now, growing, changing, becoming. And mixed in with Eleanor's photos, other moments, other victories. The day Whitmore Digital Health went public. Cassie ringing the bell at NASDAQ. Eleanor in her arms. The day Cassie's collective reached 10,000 members. Women from all over the country, all over the world. Connected, supported, empowered. The day Cassie married Robert. Small ceremony. Big love the day Margaret officially retired and made Cassie CEO of Whitmore Pharmaceuticals. It's yours now, darling. Don't fuck it up. A life in pictures. A life built from ashes. A life that almost didn't happen because she almost accepted defeat. But she didn't accept defeat. She refused it, chose differently, fought back. And here she was, 14 years after Derek served divorce papers, CEO of a pharmaceutical empire, mother to an extraordinary daughter, wife to a good man, founder of a movement that was changing thousands of lives. She'd won, not because Derek lost, but because she chose to win. That was the difference. That was everything. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Ms. Whitmore, my name is Sarah Mendez. I'm 28, 6 months pregnant, and my husband just served me with divorce papers. I saw your TED Talk. I saw your story. I need help. I don't know where else to turn. Please. With Cassie stared at the message, saw herself 14 years ago, scared, alone, desperate. She typed back, "You're not alone. Call this number tomorrow at 9 a.m. It's my direct line. We'll figure this out together. You're going to be okay. I promise." Because that was the real legacy. Not the money, not the company, not even Eleanor. The real legacy was the lives changed, the women saved, the cycles broken, one woman at a time, one conversation at a time, one act of solidarity at a time. That was revolution. That was power. That was justice. And Cassie? Cassie was just getting started. So that's how Cassandra Whitmore turned her worst day into her greatest victory. From divorce papers on her pregnant belly to CEO of a billion-dollar company. From mentally unstable to unstoppable. Derek thought he was the main character. Turns out he was just the villain in her origin story. Now I have a question for you. If you were in Cassie's position, what would you have done? Taken the money and run? Or fought back like she did? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story taught you anything about never underestimating the quiet ones, about refusing to shrink, about choosing yourself even when it's terrifying, hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe because I've got more stories like this. Stories about ordinary people who refuse to accept defeat. The revolution is quiet, but it's happening, and you're part of it. See you in the next story.